Hi, welcome to IELTS Pro Tribe. I'm Malia. Today's class, we will look at the reading skills in IELTS. There are three items on our There are three items in today's agenda. First, we will look at the question, why is it important to know the reading skills being tested in IELTS? And then we'll look at the 7 reading skills in detail. And at the end of the class, I'll answer some of the questions that you may come across when you're preparing for IELTS, and hopefully that can help you to identify which reading skills you need to practice more. Okay. Let's start by looking at the question, why do I need to know which reading skill is tested? First of all, for each reading question type, they usually involve different reading skills, sometimes even more than one skill. And when the British Council is designing the IELTS reading test, the purpose of each question type is actually to test your reading skills. And all those reading skills listed in today's class are to help you to read the article faster and to locate the answer or key information in a text. And to be honest, I believe it doesn't matter which test you're taking, it's crucial to understand why you're being tested, what skill is being tested here if you want to get a higher score. And also, if you understand which reading skill is being tested in IELTS, and you understand what skill you're not so good at, it will really help you. You will have a target, a goal when you're preparing for the IELTS. Okay, now let's take a look at the 7 reading skills in IELTS. They are previewing a text, predicting content and structure, skimming for main ideas, scanning to find key information, intensive reading, guessing words from context, understanding opinion and attitude. I believe skimming, scanning, and intensive reading, most students are good at using these three skills. But in future classes, when we look at the IELTS reading test, specific test, then we'll realize previewing, predicting, and all the other 4 skills are also very important in answering some of the questions. That will be in future classes. So today, we will look at the 7 reading skills in detail. Let's start from the first one, previewing a text. Previewing a text means looking at things like heading or a picture of a text to have an idea of what the text is about before you start reading. For example, this morning I was going through news on my phone, and just by looking at the title of the news, and the picture of the news, I realized that, this piece of news is about Trump's impeachment, and then I will decide whether I'm interested to read it or not. Also, sometimes just by looking at the title and the picture of the text, you'll have an idea of what kind of text this is, whether it's an advertisement, a news, or a scientific discovery. You'll have a general idea of the content of the text. Previewing is an important skill because it will help you anticipate the context of a text, and also in the future when you actually read the text, it will be easier for you to make sense of it and understand what they're talking about. Okay, skill number 2, predicting content and structure. Predicting content and structure involves using your knowledge of the topic of the text to guess what is going to be about. The first skill is just reading the title. Now let's look at skill number 2, predicting content and structure. Predicting content and structure involves using your knowledge of the topic and text to guess what it's going to be about. Please differentiate this skill from the first one that we just talked about. The first one is asking you to preview a text, just get an idea. And here you're using your knowledge of a specific topic. For instance, If you see an advertisement for a car, I can anticipate that in this text, it may be an advertisement. I'm trying to sell this car, and it may also involve vocabularies related to cars. And predicting is an important skill because we can make more sense of a text if we use the knowledge we already have on this certain topic. For example, I just said if this article is an advertisement for a car, I can see that there will be vocabulary about engine, about different parts of the car, talking about the speed and other performances. And let's move on to the next skill. Skimming for main ideas. Skimming for main ideas means reading a text quite quickly for a general idea of the overall topic. When we do this, we're looking for main ideas other than specific details. For instance, we might skim a review of a film to get a general idea of what this film is going to be about, and then decide whether we want to see it or not. Skimming is an important skill because our purpose is to get a general idea of something. We don't need to read the text carefully. In life, generally, you don't really have time to read through every single word of an article or understand every single detail of a film. That's the purpose of skimming and skimming for main idea. The fourth reading skill is scanning to find key information. Scanning to find key information also involves reading a text quite quickly. But here in this reading skill, we want to find a particular fact. For instance, we might scan a TV guide or a TV manual to find out a specific program on the TV. Scanning is an important skill that we use every day when we are going to a train station, we're looking for a schedule, or when we were looking at a menu, looking for the food that we want. Scanning skill is very widely used in everyday life. Now let's move on to the fifth reading skill, intensive reading. Intensive reading or reading for detail means that you read carefully study the text or part of the text. We do this when all the content of the text is important. For instance, if you bought a new computer and you want to know how it works, then you will probably need to read the instruction carefully, step by step. And we also read a text intensively when we need to understand exactly what it's talking about or to find out more details. For instance, having skimmed a film review for a general idea of what the film is about, you might want to read the review again, this time intensively, to find out the details of the plot. And also, intensive reading skill is an important skill because we often have to read things very carefully to understand what exactly it is talking about. I believe those three skills that I just mentioned, intensive reading, scanning, and skimming, I believe most of you already mastered these three skills. But the rest of the skills are also important in answering the reading test. The sixth one, guessing words from context. A good reader will sometimes be able to work out the meaning of a word by using the context or your knowledge over the topic, rather than having to look it up in a dictionary. For instance, if you were reading a car manual and you came across part of the engine that you didn't know, you might be able to work out the meaning of that word by the description of what it does, what's the purpose of that part. You might be able to get the idea of that part even though you don't understand the name of it. Guessing words from a context is not always easy for learners, but it's also a very important skill that can sometimes help you to make more sense of the text to understand what it's talking about, and to also understand the specific detail in order to answer the question correctly. And the last skill that we are going to talk about in today's class is understanding opinion and attitude. Some of you may know that in reading test, there will be questions of matching, where you have to match an opinion with the author. So understanding an opinion and attitude, this is a skills being used here in those type of questions. Understanding opinion and attitude means understanding what the author thinks or feel. Understanding opinion and attitude means understanding what the writer is feeling or thinking, even when there's no direct statement. For instance, if someone on holiday wrote an email saying that, oh, I wish I didn't have to leave, you would probably know that the author is having a good time during his holiday. Understanding attitude and opinion is important reading skill because the author rarely state directly how they think and feel in the passage. So those are the reading skills involved in IELTS reading test. So how do we know which reading skill you need to practice more on? So now let's look at some of the questions that you may come across when you're preparing for IELTS reading. Question number 1. I keep stopping to look up words in a dictionary. If you ask yourself this question, what skill do you need to practice more on? That's right, guessing. Guessing words from context. Question number 2. I'm so slow. And I found it really difficult to pick out the main ideas quickly. Then what skill you need to practice here? That's right, skimming. Okay, let's move on. Question number 3. I don't read carefully enough, and I sometimes get the wrong meaning. So what do you need to practice here? If you get the wrong meaning, you need to practice more on intensive reading. The next question. I just start reading without thinking about what I know about this topic. If you say that to yourself often, then you really need to practice your skill of predicting. And the next question. Sometimes students ask me, I can never tell what the writer thinks about something. Then for those students, you need to practice more on understanding the attitude of the author. Okay, 6th question. I'm not able to search a text to find a particular piece of information. If you have the same problem, then you need to work on your scanning. Okay, the last question. I always start reading a text straight away before looking at the headings and the pictures first to help me understand the text. If you have the same problem here, then you really have to work on your previewing. So these are all the skills in IELTS reading. In the future classes, we'll look at how to actually use these skills to answer different question type. Thank you for watching today's class. I'll see you next time.